Many of you know how God got my attention 11 years ago when I read an article about AIDS in Africa. And at that time, I didn't care about AIDS in Africa. I didn't care about AIDS anywhere. But God took the words I read that day, and He led me on a journey that has changed my life. It's also changed our church. We've become known as a place where people living with HIV are welcomed and embraced. We joined the fight against the HIV virus that has robbed more than 36 million people of their lives and has left millions of orphaned children. As a church, we've come so far in our fight against AIDS, but we're not done yet. 3 years ago, we linked arms with the global campaign called Getting to Zero, which aims for these 5 things. It aims for 0 new HIV infections, 0 AIDS-related deaths, 0 babies born HIV positive, 0 stigma, and 0 children living in orphanages in Rwanda. This year, we're focusing on one of those goals in particular, 0 stigma. Now, stigma, it's a tricky thing. Sometimes it's overt. You can't mistake it. Name-calling, making fun of or ostracizing a coworker, refusing to be friends with someone different than you, bullying. But stigma is also more nuanced and subtle. It can hide in our hearts beneath the surface and rises up in unexpected ways that we have trouble identifying in ourselves. But make no mistake, every one of us is guilty of stigmatizing another human being at some point or the other. But the good news is we can do something about it. And the most powerful way that I can think of to zero out stigma is to build relationships. In our local HIV and AIDS initiative, we see God answer prayer by touching almost 100 people weekly, reaching some of the highest risk people groups. Let me share with you a trio of local stories that show you that we still have work to do. Last year, Francisco appeared at our support group, and through his story, we discovered that he was living in his car, not taking his HIV medications as prescribed, and he was seriously ill with AIDS. Our team came around Francisco and found that mental health issues were complicating his quest to survive. We were able to get him food and shelter. Unfortunately, Francisco failed to thrive, and he passed away. But he passed away into the arms of Jesus, knowing the love of God and of his brothers and sisters. On the brighter side, one of our newest HIV-positive members just had a baby. As you may know, there is a risk of transmitting the virus from mother to child. But with good education, adherence to medications, frequent doctor visits, and a strong support at home and church, it's produced a wonderful result. And the newest member of our ministry is HIV negative. And how about the 400 individuals or families that we have moved from homelessness to homes because we supplied necessary furniture, appliances, and housewares through your generous donations? And on the global side, it's no different. Fighting stigma and getting to zero is also about relationships. Take, for example, the incredible story of Laurence, a 17-year-old girl living with HIV in Rwanda. Laurence's parents died when she was just 2 years old, and so she lived 15 lonely years in an orphanage. Laurence really suffered, not only as an orphan, but there was no one to get her the help that she needed for HIV. She couldn't even go to school, and she was often ostracized and isolated from other children. Because of her age and her HIV status, the orphanage claimed that she was unadoptable. She was depressed and without hope. But that's not the end of her story. Hundreds of miles away from the orphanage, a woman named Kabibi also lived with HIV. Kabibi lost 2 children in the genocide, and though she heard God whisper that she would one day have a family again, she didn't see how that was possible. Through the HIV/AIDS initiative and the Rwanda Orphan Care Initiative, Kabibi learned about Laurence, one of the last children left in her orphanage, and her heart broke. Kabibi knew God had redeemed her pain so that she could redeem others, and she decided that she could be a mother to Laurence. When they met for the first time, Kabibi embraced her new daughter. Tears streamed down both of their faces as Kabibi told Laurence, "I'm going to be your mother." With the help of the local church and Saddleback sponsorship, Kabibi has been able to adopt Laurence. Just a few days ago, Kabibi went to the orphanage to get Laurence. And at last, Laurence left the orphanage and came home to a family of her own, to a mom who will love her and make sure she gets the HIV care she needs. Finally, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being Saddleback. Thank you for helping us get to zero stigma by building relationships here in our community and around the world. I love you for who you are and for what you are allowing God to do through you.